What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Your Fielder's Choice MLB preview show, special show, preview with the prospect, where we have a special guest this evening. You know me, Mike Miz, 23. Usually, here for your football shows and so forth. But I'm joined by my buddy Pete. You know Pete from all of our various shows, from NHL to college basketball to MLB. And we're joined by a special guest. Well, Pete, why don't you talk about yourself and our guest?
All right, what's up, guys? We are back for MLB. MLB's what, 2 weeks? Let's say the 14th. It's like 2 weeks, I think. It's close. And we've been rocking spring training. We've been doing really well. We've been pretty much crushing GVPs, which has been a good lead up. And we figured we'd have a nice little MLB preview, which we'll have more as we get really close. So this is kind of a generic thing. And I wanted to bring on today, which we've been promising you guys for a year or two now, one of our longtime subs, Corey Hammond from New Jersey. So
what's up, guys?
Corey, you're on the screen right there. You go. Sorry. Yeah, Corey's with us. He's been a sub of us since the old Daily Fantasy Solution days. He's a good friend of mine. We do a lot of DM and talk, and we've been playing MLB DFS together for a while. So we figured we'd bring him on today, talk to him about his career a little bit, maybe get some DFS advice as we get into the season, especially at the beginning of the season. Give us some tips, maybe to give us a little edge on anybody else. And then we'll get a little bit of a preview, some breakout players, player movement, because there was a lot of off-season trades and signing. It seems more this year than normal years. And then some other stuff, maybe our top pitchers and breakout pitchers and all that. So starting off, Corey, what's up, man?
Not much. How are you?
Good. You're from Jersey, right? So where did you go? You went to high school in Jersey, correct?
Yeah. So Roxbury, New Jersey. It's kind of northwest, right by the Pennsylvania border. Big Group 4 school. Always been, super talented. We had, a couple kids went to Vanderbilt out of high school, which in college baseball, Vanderbilt's like the school to go to.
Right.
Always, competitive high school baseball player.
Vandy, that's where Al Leader's kid's pitching right now, Vandy, right?
Yeah. Jack Leiter's there. Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 Jersey kids right now. Like Jersey's like a hotbed for baseball. But Jack Leiter's there. I think he went like 5 scoreless again yesterday.
He's good.
Yeah. Yeah. The Northeast kind of gets frowned upon because of the weather, but there's a lot of talent around the state.
And you went, okay, so you graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get drafted out of high school? I know you went to college, but did you get drafted or you went straight to college first?
No, so I didn't throw hard whatsoever in high school. I was a soft throwing lefty that kind of knew how to pitch. Ended up going to Montclair State University, which is a Division III school in New Jersey.
Right.
It's a national powerhouse. If guys don't know anything about Division III baseball, like we were the best of the best. We're talking number 1 in the country for 4 straight years while I was there. Kind of just developed myself while I was there, matured a little bit late. Had some success as my, freshman year went through. We happened to win a national championship my sophomore year, which I got to throw way more than I probably expected to as a sophomore in the College World Series. And it just kept growing. Went to the Cape Cod League that year, had some success out there. And then, one thing just led to the next.
So when you won and for people that knows, I played at SUNY. I was at SUNY Cortland, which was still, a big time. I thought Division III college. And Montclair State that's like the cream of the crop. And you guys, you won the D3 championship when you were a sophomore?
Yeah.
What it was?
Yeah, we won my sophomore year, and then we should have won it my junior year, but we had a misplayed bunt by one of our pitchers that kind of cost us going to the championship. So it could have been a back-to-back for sure. We were actually better my second year than we were the first year.
Where was back when I played, it was at Muzzy Field in Bristol. Where was the Division II, like the World Series or the tournament? Where was that?
It was in Wisconsin, Appleton, Wisconsin, where I believe it's a Mariners low A. It was at their complex. So they have,
right.
It's a awesome field. Obviously it doesn't get the same notoriety as like the Division I World Series but unbelievable experience. I definitely would never trade, where I went to school for anything. It was the best decision of my life.
You have a ring? You got a ring for winning the World Series, right? For
college? Yeah, we got a College World Series ring. It was actually the third time that the school had won it, which has never happened before. So we're one of like two teams in the country that have ever won 3 World Series. So that was a pretty big deal, to finally notch in that third one that's everybody tries to get. And we're, one of, I think, 2 teams right now. So.
And they're still a powerhouse, right?
Yeah. I mean, the conference that they're in, the NJAC, is probably hands down one of the best conferences. I think.
Competitive,
Yeah.
very big competitive.
Yeah, there's 4 teams ranked in the top 20 in the country right now, all from the state of New Jersey. So it's like if you can win that division, you are hands down probably one of the best in the country, if not, overall. So super competitive.
All right, so you won the sophomore year, you put junior year. So did you play all 4 years?
Yep. Yeah. So I thought I was going to get drafted as a junior.
Okay.
Things didn't work out that way. Ended up going back to school for another year, which probably was the right. I don't think I was actually ready to be, a professional athlete. I mean, it's a grind. So I went back my senior year. Had an average season, but numbers wise and just ability, I guess, allowed me to get drafted as high as I did. And ran with it.
So first of all, the team that won the World Series. Did anybody else get drafted from that team?
Yeah, we had 4 kids drafted off of that team. It was actually one every single year. My high school or my college roommate, he got drafted the same year I did. He got to the Expos, which the Expos aren't even around anymore. But yeah, he was. We both got drafted the same year within like 2 rounds of each other. So, we got to play. My first collegiate batter or first professional batter I ever faced was actually my roommate. I came in and I actually had to face. Yeah, it was like the most random thing in the world, and we got to, laughing while I'm on the mound facing my roommate for 4 years, and then, we got to face each other. It was my first ever person I ever faced, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Is anybody from Montclair State made the big leagues or no?
No, never been one.
So still somebody which is, I mean, and people don't realize how much you're right, how much of a hotbed the Northeast is for baseball. I said, like, my son pitched in college, and you don't realize how just to step up from high school to college is unbelievable.
Yeah, listen, I mean, every kid that dreamed to play professionally, I mean, it's a grind. I mean, I push everybody in that direction. I mean, that's what I do now for basically for a living. But I mean, it's such a small number of people that have a chance to even play professionally. So when you're looking at the high school to college level, my biggest thing is to tell any kid that's looking for, just find a place to play. I mean, it's Division I, Division II, Division III. It doesn't matter.
Community college, even community college, right?
Oh yeah. Chipola down in Florida is one of the biggest schools, in the country. Powerhouses. So it's just a number. I mean, kids are so involved in a Division I school, but you know what? If you can play, college baseball, that's a pretty big deal.
Especially, which I think you'd said too, that a lot of kids are still growing from their senior year to freshman, and they actually haven't even peaked yet in their seniors. And some kids become better college players than they were in high school. So you always have a chance, I mean, as long as and it's so much different. Like when I played in the late 80s and early 90s. And now, I mean, with the traveling baseball, with the videos, with the indoor cages and stuff, it's a whole different world. So, and it's all pretty much like one sport now, right? A lot of these kids just going to high school playing one sport. I mean, instead of just concentrate on baseball, right? Especially if you're good at it.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, like, in our travel program, we actually just had a kid commit to Louisville. He was actually an all-state basketball player too. He probably could play Division I basketball, and they told him if he stopped playing basketball, they wouldn't have recruited him. So it depends on the niche. I mean, if you're a super sport, athlete, I mean, it's a different world. But I mean, this day and age, these kids, that's all they live, breathe, eat, sleep, whatever sport it is. Baseball is such a big deal right now. I mean, you have to train year round right now.
I see when my daughter's playing flag football in high school, and it's huge in Florida. And this is girls flag football. But there's actually coaches from colleges now coming and scouting the girls' games, which I just found unbelievable. So, but I mean, obviously college is a great experience. You did something very few people in college can say. You got a ring, and you know how hard it is to win a championship, going through the whole World Series and the whole, the regionals and all that, which is unbelievable accomplishment. So kudos for you. And so you got drafted by who, what round? How'd that all go about then?
Yeah, so that was when I used to do the draft only like over the computer. So I thought I was going to get drafted, didn't really have a, for sure say what round or whatever. So I was literally like playing Tiger Woods video games like with my friends, like just hanging out, and got drafted by the Tigers in the 12th round. When they actually announced my name over the computer, my mom was listening and she didn't know who I got drafted by because it actually like blurted itself out. But they called me right away. Tigers was, I was not going to say no to anybody. So, I actually had one of my college roommates was with the Tigers at the time. So it was also another, like, had somebody that I was going there to already know a little bit, good feeling. And then literally 5 days later, I was down in Florida.
Did you, before you got drafted though, did the Tigers, were they watching you? Were they scouting you?
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
you
mean,
had scouts at the games, right? Especially when you're in the World Series and regionals and stuff.
yeah, I mean, going into my senior year, I mean, like every single time I threw, I would have 10 to 15 scouts at every game. It was one of those things that it just became, nerve-wracking at first, became kind of repetitive after a while. And then the Tigers were definitely somebody that followed me. I mean, I think they went to almost every one of my starts my senior year. So it was kind of had a feeling that it could have been a team like that. But then, you get a phone call the day before of a team that's like, if we draft you in the 5th round, are you going to sign? I'm like, well, I would have signed in the 50th round. It didn't matter to me. So,
Right.
yeah, it's kind of, it's a big, there's a whole, test, a psychology test you got to take to see kind of what kind of person you are, how you're going to handle, the limelight, if you will. I mean, I've seen so many of these first rounders that get all this money and, it's all of a sudden it either becomes a burden to them, it's hard on them, or all of a sudden they become complacent. So, being a senior sign, obviously I didn't, sign for as much money as some of those guys, but at the same time, that was kind of like a driving force for my career to, just stick with it, never really give up.
Which is unbelievable. Just think of the percentage of even then you go from high school to college, the percentage of guys that get drafted out of high school. I mean, out of college. And
Oh yeah,
many great guys that played college that didn't get drafted. So, I mean, it's a 1 in a million thing.
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
You get drafted in June, right? That's when
Yep.
Or when, and then you went to what, single life, rookie league.
Yeah, so I got sent to Oneonta, New York, which if anybody knows that area. Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on in Oneonta, New York. So
I worked up there.
Yeah. I was only there for 5 days. I made two relief appearances and I got sent right away. I got sent right to high A, went down to Florida State League like right away. I was a little bit, and I was a 22-year-old at the time by the time I got drafted. So, I guess on the older terminology, but I had some success, quickly, and they just pushed me right through. So I got right down to the wonderful Florida State League, which is super hot, a lot of rain, not a lot of fans, 400 people a game on a good day. It's brutal, but a good experience.
So usually the New York Penn, right? New York Penn, which is pretty much still there, I guess. New York Penn was the guys that got drafted in June. Mm-hmm. There was like Utica and there was Oneonta.
Yep.
There was a bunch of all those little
Hudson Valley had a
team and Batavia.
Staten Island's a team now, Brooklyn, Brooklyn Cyclones. Yeah, there's a lot of teams now that are, bigger now than they were back then. But and
it's a big deal now too. I used to have season tickets when I lived up in New York to the Rays single A team. It's a big deal. It's a big family affair now. Yeah, the Brooklyn, the Staten Island Yankees, right? They had a big thing. It's at Hudson Valley. So, and you went to, so the next step is the Florida State League, right? So that's higher.
That's high
than and what do you call rookie league or whatever, right?
Yep.
And where in Florida did you play there? Is that when you played in Lakeland?
Yeah, I was in Lakeland. I was there for actually 2 full seasons. After that year, then I was there for 1 more full year. I was there. I jumped over low A, and I went right to high A. So then the following year I went back there, completed an entire season, out of the bullpen, pitching down there, and then, parts of the following year. Then I went right to Double A after that.
So what in college you were a starting pitcher?
Yep.
Was there a big change for you to go to learn to become a relief pitcher now once you became professionally? I mean, did they draft you to be a relief pitcher, or just the way it just went about as you worked your way through?
Yeah, just kind of how it fell. I mean, I had a pretty resilient arm. I could bounce back pretty easily, so it was one of those. Let him be a reliever. I mean, sometimes I was a long guy. It was never like a closer or anything. I think I had like 3 or 4 saves in my life. But, it was just literally I was never going to complain. I mean, it was one of those, I'm a senior sign. let's see how long I can do this. Had some success as a reliever, got moved up kind of relatively fast. So, I just stuck with it. And it worked for me. I didn't mind it. I actually liked the bullpen better than the starter.
So you went to you were in Lakeland, and then you went. When did you get traded to Pittsburgh then?
So I played 5 full seasons with the Tigers. So my 6th year, I got traded. I got Rule 5 over to the Pirates from the Tigers.
And you played where did you play for the Pirates? In Indianapolis?
Yeah, so I was in Indianapolis and Altoona. I went to AA right when I got traded over. I went to AA, and then I spent the next almost 3/4 of that season. I got moved up to AAA. And then I was in AAA for 2 more years with them at the end of my career, and then I moved on.
So you played in Altoona. That's not too far from your home, then, right?
Yeah. So it was pretty cool. I mean, I had a lot of, I actually got to pitch at Scranton one year on Memorial Day, and when I was with the Tigers, and Roger Clemens actually was making the start, so there was 20,000 people there to watch, Roger Clemens pitch, and I actually got to share the mound with him, which was an awesome experience. And then I had tons of friends and family that got to come and watch. So, it was cool. Yeah, being close to home was always cool. I mean, my wife now, fiance at the time, as a teacher, she would kind of come out when she could, but whenever I was local, she was always there, and my parents and my brother and stuff like that. So, it's close. Whenever I was home, it was cool. I was usually away more than I was home though.
And obviously, the road in the minor leagues is like you see, like in the movies, right? With Bull Durham and all those kind of. I mean, it's not easy, obviously, to play baseball every day in the lower minor leagues, right? I mean, it's.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at it, it's 152 games in 160 days. So there's only 8 total days off for the minor leagues. So you're looking at, your days off or travel days. Like when we would go from Erie, Pennsylvania to all the way up to play Portland, Maine, Portland Sea Dogs, like that was an 18-hour bus ride. So that was one of your days off was spent on a bus, So even though you have a day off, you're literally not off. You're still stuck in a bus with, 30 other guys. So it's a different world.
So you made all the way up to AAA. Mm-hmm. So you obviously must have played with a bunch of guys that actually made the big leagues, right? I mean,
I played with a lot of them. Yeah, they were a lot better than I was. Good. They were really good. Yeah, I mean, so I the year I got drafted by the Tigers, Curtis Granderson was in my draft class. He was a third rounder my year.
There's a picture. I mean to interrupt you. There's a picture on right now. John is Thoreau. Yeah. Who's in this? Is there some guys in this picture right here?
Yeah, so Andrew McCutchen is directly next to me. He's a real deal. Evan Meek is right next to him, who was actually an all-star for 1 year with the Pirates, kind of bounced around a little bit. I think he was with the Orioles at one point. Yeah. Steve Pearce is right next to him. So, he was a Red Sox.
Steve Pearce.
I mean, he was the MVP of the World Series. Yeah. Eric Kratz is in the down in the bottom, the guy kind of laughing in the back. I mean, he's got 10 years in the big leagues as a backup catcher. He's made millions of dollars being a backup catcher, but he's 43, just retired. So who else is in there? Tom Gorzolani's in there. Yeah. So, I mean, AAA kind of sometimes is like a little hovering point for some of the former big leaguers. And then you have a lot of guys like McCutchen at that time that was like his first year in AAA. I mean, he was going to the big leagues. Everybody knew it. It was just like, when was he going to go? So just seeing him play every day, he had benchmarks as a player that they required him to hit, steal a certain amount of bases, defensive, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he's a real deal. I mean, when you could tell he was going to be really good, I mean, on that team alone, he had Neil Walker was on that team. I'm trying to think who else was on that team. That was a really good team. But it was kind of, you'd see big leaguers come up and down, so it was cool that, you'd have, Charlie Morton was there at one point for a little while before he got out to the big leagues and then made his big deal. When I was with the Tigers. Yeah. I mean, and he was, he's a Brave that got traded over to the Pirates. So, all of a sudden you see these guys get traded and then you kind of see how they were developed in another program. When I was with the Tigers, Justin Verlander was my teammate for a year. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, from the day he stepped foot in AA, you could tell he was going to be a big leaguer. And then obviously, proof is in the pudding. I mean, he's one of the best players, of all time, I think. I mean, he's the next, if he's the only 300-game winner left, I mean, he's going to be the guy to do it. Hopefully,
right.
hopefully he comes back healthy. I mean, he's like 30 wins away. So, maybe a little bit more than that. But yeah, I mean, they're just, I was good. Those guys were, you could just tell they were just going to be that, next MVP like a McCutcheon or, stuff like that. So,
Who's the best player you ever played with overall and all the tools?
I mean, I would definitely say McCutcheon. I mean, as a defensive player and a hitter, I'd say it was McCutcheon. Pitching wise, I mean, Verlander's Verlander. I mean, his biggest gripe there, we said when he got drafted in the first round, was that he couldn't throw strikes. And I mean, if you see him, I mean, I think he figured that out pretty good. And then we have other guys like Joel Zamaya, who's a guy that, people will remember that name. I mean, he was a reliever for the Tigers he threw 105. He was a high school kid that got drafted in, the 10th round because he was in high school and throws 105 miles an hour 2 years later he's in the big league. So, some kids develop, like I said, some kids develop differently. I mean, he got the pro ball and he was a 100-mile-an-hour pitcher right away, and it was something he never did in high school. And then all of a sudden, gets that different ball in his hand and it became just electric. So
it's amazing. Just the memories you get just to have stuff.
Oh, I got stories. I mean, benches clearing brawls with with Robinson Cano and Melky Cabrera when we were with the Tampa Yankees. I mean, we had a full blown benches clearing brawl, and those guys were involved. And I'm like, at the time they weren't big leaguers, and now you see them, and I'm like, I saw them in a full blown benches clearing brawl.
So here's a question for you: What year? What was the last year you played AAA?
So 2010, I played AAA, and then I went and played winter ball that year, seeing if I could, sign a contract with somebody. So, 2010 was my last year.
All right, so there really wasn't DFS yet then.
No, I mean there was, no, it was more, it was card games and straight up betting. But there was definitely no DFS yet.
Because that's the one question I've always wanted to ask somebody that's been a pro is, and you might even be able to answer, is how do guys, especially probably in the minors, because pros will be different. Guys in the minors, you think play DFS? Can they play DFS? Would that be allowed? And do you think it affects them?
Technically,
say you're pitching now for Indianapolis AAA in 2021, and you know how big DFS is and DraftKings and stuff, and say you made the majors. Would that? You have family members playing DFS. I'm your buddy. I grew up with you, and I don't do. Do you think DFS affects the game?
I don't, because I mean it's just like what happened to Pete Rose. I mean, that's technically gambling on the sport. I mean, whether it's your own team or not. So there's some really strict rules involving that stuff. Right. I mean, even in the minor leagues, I mean, like technically gambling is gambling. So I mean, do I think it's a possibility? Absolutely. I don't think there's a big niche group of people that are really doing it. I mean, because baseball is not like many other sports, though. Like, you're not guaranteed to get a hit every time. Like the NBA, NBA, LeBron James is going to have 5 points, 10 rebounds, and 12 assists probably every night. In baseball, Mike Trout might go 0 for 4, and you're expecting him to go 4 for 4, and it's just it's just not going to work that way. He might hit 4 balls on the screws, but those might go right at people. So
I've always wondered that. I just always wondered, because like you'll see every now and then tweet guys will, especially like Mike, we've talked about it with NBA guys will tweet a guy, you suck because you screwed up my fantasy team, especially like in football, guys will make, pros make comments back. So it's obviously affected the game, probably in a good way too, because to me, I followed baseball my whole life, but then you get to a certain point in your life where you're doing other things, you don't follow as much as you used to. And all of a sudden DFS kind of brought me back to the game, following it on a regular basis, which is, I'm kind of glad, because I got away from it, probably 10 years ago before it became big again. So, which I don't consider it gambling, but I just think there's way too much strategy involved in the work we put into it. It's a lot more than just a 50-50 chance of some of this stuff. So I always thought that was a good question to ask somebody, if they thought it affected them or the way they played, knowing people has, I guess it's always been that way with betting. So same way, I guess. Okay. So, your last years in Indianapolis, you went to winter leagues. Eventually, you just get older and you're done. So when you left, you went to you're coaching now, right? Did you go into coaching right away, or did you?
No.
How was it at the end when you left? I mean, when you were done, because obviously it probably wasn't the greatest time in your life, right? When eventually you realize that you're done. I mean, the game is you can't pitch to your 50.
Yeah, I mean, so it was one of those things that, like, at some point in your career, you kind of realize you might be like an organizational guy that, if the right things fall, maybe you'll make it to the big leagues or whatever. I mean, I think wholeheartedly, if I was throwing as hard as I did when I was with the Pirates and I was with the Tigers, I think I definitely would have made it to the big leagues without a doubt. They were big believers in velocity, and then, push came to shove. I went and played winter ball. I mean, I had a fiance, actually married by then. At some point it was like, when do I start my real life? I spent 10 years chasing this dream. I mean, it was something I would never want to give up. I mean, my wife always backed me, which was awesome.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so I took some time off. I mean, I still played in a couple like local leagues just because I still had that itch of playing. But at some point I was like, you know what, I want to become a coach. I want to still involve baseball in my life, and we're talking. I'm 40 years old now. I've been coaching high school baseball since 2010. So I mean, I'm 11 years in now. Actually, I took a year off. So basically, 2011, I started coaching high school baseball, and it was one of those things that I want to give back something that I learned, and I enjoyed it a lot. I mean, I think coaching is a totally different world than playing, but it's fun. I really enjoy giving back to the community a little bit. I mean, kids nowadays, around here, like they might know a little bit about me, but it was that enjoyment of seeing kids progress and get better, was something that was really cool for me. And now, travel baseball has become, a really big, big part of my life that, dealing with, like we were just talking before, dealing with kids that are, potential first rounders, and, giving them a little bit of insight of like what to expect, the life, it's not for everybody. I mean, I've seen kids that get drafted and then all of a sudden they're just not used to it. I mean, you're gone 8 to 10 months out of the year, I mean, so you got to be willing to sacrifice a lot,
Journey.
Yeah. I mean, me playing winter ball, I mean, I went to winter ball and played, 2 winters. I never came home for an entire year. Like I literally came home for a week, went to Jamaica with my wife, came home, went to winter ball, never came back. So it was like, is this the life that I want? 100%. I loved it, but eventually it was like time to start a family. Kind of time to move on a little bit and kind of live like a normal life. So that's where I'm at now.
And you're coaching now was it Donovan Catholic, right, in Jersey?
Yep. Yeah. So I was at a public school for 7 years. Enjoyed it. Donovan Catholic's a private school. It's the only one in my county. So it was kind of when the position opened, it was that luxury of getting kids from all over the state that can kind of come and play for you. And it's, it's a builder. We start them from the ground up right now. It was a program that didn't really have a baseball world in it. And now we're slowly building something that, I'm happy to be around. It's fun to be around. I mean, seeing the program develop and, the school involved in sports and loan, they've become really, important to the school. So it's cool. Our football team's really good there. Softball's ranked like 7th in the country. So, it's a good experience.
And it's still class A. I mean, it's a big school, right?
Yeah. So for the private schools, yeah, we're like what they call non-public A. So we play, like Del Barton, Pope John, like all the big time schools in New Jersey are all in our conference. So it's a grind. It is a, year in and year out. I think Don Bosco is another, one that's in our conference potentially for states. They're ranked like 10th in the country right now. So, you're talking about really good baseball.
I see you got a freshman pitcher. That's already good. It just popped up on the screen.
Yeah. I mean, and it's, like we've got, travel balls, that is the next thing that I started jumping into, like right now we have a senior at Red Bank Catholic that's with us that, he's a 95, 97 guy that, he's committed to the University of Virginia, but he's going to probably be a first rounder, in July. And he's going to have to make the decision of, do I fulfill my career, in college, or do I go and play professionally? I mean, so he's going to have a lot of thinking to do, but, it's exciting. It's fun to be around.
Good question. Is you as a coach, say you're as a coach, what would you, I know you can't tell okay what to do, but what would be your suggestion? Because if I'm coming out of high school and I'm getting drafted or I have a college offers, me back when I was in high school, I would have went the draft, but now it's like smart move is to go to college. What would be your suggestion to a kid like that? Or can you even get that suggestion? I mean, but I mean, everybody's different.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it with him. I mean, the biggest thing is like, what round he gets drafted in, like how much higher can he possibly go? So like
that's true. Yeah, you can get drafted and still go to college. That's right. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he can get drafted. He'd still go. Yeah, I mean, so there's obviously a dollar figure for certain people, and stuff like that. I mean, but if you get drafted in the first round and you're the 20th pick overall, I mean, are you going to become 19 picks better in college, or the arm's only going to last for so long. As a pitcher, it's a totally different world than like as a position player. Like I think a pitcher only has so much to be able to throw without potentially getting hurt that, if you're offered millions of dollars, take the money and go back to college another day. I think for a position player, it's a little bit different, so they can mature a little bit more, see some better hitting. High school compared to college hitting is totally different. So, maybe they get better, maybe they go higher. But for a pitcher, it definitely is, what round you get drafted in, how much money they're really offering. The luxury of being committed to a big time school already is that, he has that as a leverage for him. So he can now play that off of, a team that signs him. Like, I can easily go back to college, or you can sign me and, his college will be paid for. He'll never pay $1 to go to school wherever he decides, but, you get offered millions of dollars, even $1 million. That's life-changing money for some of these kids. So
it's a nice predicament to be in, right?
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. Yeah, and then you look at what these professionals are making. It's unbelievable. They're making $500,000 as a rookie. That's a lot of money. So it's definitely a decision. I think kids make the best decision for them. These kids all have their own representation already, and they have agents and stuff like that. So those guys are there to help them, obviously, in their best interest. But it's definitely going to be something that he's going to have to make a decision. We could probably have 4 kids in the next year that'll be top 5 rounders. So, that's a lot of money to turn down. So we'll see.
Yeah, it is. Well, good luck to you. It's been an honor, seriously, just to talk to you and finally, get your story out. Looking forward to, and we can kind of like roll into DFS right now, because I think one of the questions I've always thought, and I know a lot of other people thought, you've been there, you've been behind the scenes, you've been, in the clubhouse, on the traveling and stuff. Is there anything that us as DFS players, especially us guys that play every day, that do this for a living, is there anything that you may think that we miss, or, some tips and then that somebody like you would know that we wouldn't even think of, that may help us, especially for this upcoming season in DFS?
Yeah, so we've talked about it a little bit. Like, I think like the getaway day, like that day game that they're going to travel somewhere else, like that's a big deal. Like that you might not have your everyday starter playing, or, they might be playing, but they also realize that they're going to be finally going home for 10 days after they've been on the road for 10 days. So like the getaway day is 100% true. Like it becomes, usually don't have the starting catcher catching, you might have some backups playing. So the game itself is different. So the team that's staying home that week, like you might see the starting pitcher might have a little bit better success just because they're not facing that everyday guy. The day game after a night game is another big one. Like if you play a night game that goes till midnight and then they got a day game the next day, like they're going to be sluggish. As much as they say, they're making lots of money, but it's still a grind. They're playing every day. Hey, baseball is not easy to play. So now you're expecting like a catcher that might catch back-to-back games. 2 days in a row is tough, especially when they only have like a 6-hour window to get back on the field. Like a 7:00 game, those guys are getting to the field at 12 o'clock. So they're preparing 7 hours before a game. So, now you have to shrink that down to you're playing a day game after a night game. That window just became 3 hours. And now all of a sudden they might not have their same routine that they're getting done with. The night, the day game, the ball's going to carry a little bit differently than a night game. Like the crowd, it might be, obviously with the COVID, it's a little bit different right now, but, fans play a big role in it, like that, that energy in the field is, is huge. So, those are some big things.
So you see you actually see a difference then, see like these all day slates, some of the smaller slates, you see the difference in the day games and the offense and the night games?
I think there can be. I think the offense might be structured differently. Like some of those guys are going to get days off just because it's built into their schedule. And then there's going to be some guys that want to grind through, I'm trying to think of like a couple, like, guys that like grinders, like back in the day, like Cal Ripken obviously never missed a day. Those guys aren't going to miss, but then there's some guys that are actually looking forward to that day off. So like if they're told they're going to have the day game off, that night game, as much as it doesn't sound like they're going to be lackadaisical, they know they have the next day off. So all of a sudden they become like maybe a little bit more complacent, like going 1 for 4 for them is an okay day, where, you have that backup catcher that's going to catch on that day game. Like that was the guy I always wanted to throw to because he might only catch 1 day a week, that's his biggest day to thrive. So he might get 2 base hits, and that's his month, So, I think the backup catcher sometimes, like we talk about it as like a value. I think the backup catcher can be like a value spot for you. Obviously, looking at their track record and who they're playing and stuff like that. Obviously, if they're facing like a stud arm, there's also a reason why you see some backup catchers that are catching a game when like Max Scherzer's pitching, like the starting catcher might not want to face him that day. So now all of a sudden you get the backup catcher in there. But at the same time, he's going to do whatever he can on that 4 at-bats that he gets that day because he only gets a bat once a week. It's a totally different animal.
Which happens a lot on Sundays, obviously, too, because Sundays is usually a day of rest, too, right, for the starting catchers. So it's something good to look at, right? So if you see a backup catcher playing, look to see who he's batting against. And if it's a mediocre pitcher, it might be a good call because that's going to be the bats he's going to get for the week.
Yeah.
So is it true that mental does play? My wife always brings this up to me a lot, too. She's like, too bad you didn't know, like, this guy got into a fight with his wife the night before. I mean, because people are human, right? So shit happens. I mean, these guys are going out the night before. We don't know what they're doing. I mean, maybe he got a fight with his wife or his girlfriend. He's been up all night. So, I mean, obviously we don't know that, but these guys are human.
Yeah. I mean, listen, their life is just, a little bit different live, but you still go through the same stuff. I mean, those guys are still, grinding out at bats, going home to family, stuff like that. I mean, that was, you see some of these guys that their families would be there year round, and when they're away, it's a different lifestyle. They're a little bit more relaxed before games and then vice versa. So yeah, that definitely plays a role. I think a big one, just touching on catchers a lot is, if you look at your starting pitcher, who is catching them, like this big thing with Garrett Cole and who's going to catch him with the Yankees. If he doesn't feel comfortable with like a Gary Sanchez catching him, it's going to be like you'll see him shaking off a lot more. Like that gets into those guys. Like that bothers them. Like there's a routine. There's a whole, like before start, even at the minor leagues, I would sit down with the catcher and we would discuss every hitter 1 through 9 and how we were going to attack them, what we thought their weaknesses were, what we thought our strengths were. And like if you're on the same page, it makes the game a lot easier to, to pitch. And then if you're shaking off constantly because you're disagreeing, that just gets frustrating. You can see some of these big leaguers too, like when they're shaking off multiple times, they get annoyed, because they have strategically planned the entire game in their head, and that's how they want to go about it.
It's a good call. What about umpires? I mean, you see, we brought that up before too. Do you think umpires play a key role in making your DFS lineups? So knowing which umpires, because you do see it now. You do see umpires listed out for each game in a lot of these DFS, the optimizers and stuff. I mean, is that?
Yeah, I don't think it's the number one thing overall, but a strike percentage by an umpire, how many walks does he call in a game, stuff like that. I think those are big. The strike zone is the strike zone, but some guys give a little bit more, some guys don't. If you're looking at a pitcher that kind of lives on the corners, he might not get that from this guy, but then all of a sudden the other guy's like, if the catcher's receiving the ball in that spot, it's a strike. A catcher's not going to set up for a ball. So yeah, it's definitely important. I don't think you have to like base your entire strategy around it, but definitely looking at the ballpark. We were talking about it today. Like if the Blue Jays are playing in Buffalo, like that is a home run field. Like the ball that carries out of there, it's a super small ballpark. So like we talk about the Rockies all the time being this, home run ballpark. There's a lot of them out there. There's some of them don't look at it, like the Diamondbacks. If the dome is open, it's a different world than it's closed. Yeah, it's a totally different thing. So those things should definitely look at. And I think you look into it. You usually share that stuff in there, but checking wins, like the Cubs Stadium, it blows in Wrigley every single day. Sometimes it's blowing out. That doesn't mean there's going to be home runs hit, but sometimes there's a 30-mile-an-hour wind blowing across the field that you have no idea what's going to happen. And then defensively, it changes the whole game defensively too. You're like, balls might fall in, stuff like that. So, those are all, things to look at. Every day I take a look at that stuff online just to see, who's there, what's going on, stuff like that, But I really think the catcher-pitcher relationship is really big. As a former pitcher, I think that was really important, being on the same page and, having a routine. Like Garrett Cole's Garrett Cole. He's going to be able to change on the fly, but he has a plan. Those guys are strategically looking at that start 5 days prior and starting to plan out their entire day and like what, who the lineup is, stuff like that. So, look at all that stuff.
All right. And one more question before we get to the quick preview.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a pitcher spot starter, I don't say Cole comes down with whatever is all of a sudden Cole gets scratched. We got a spot starter, and obviously maybe a pitcher that's usually in the bullpen or it's a long reliever. He may be getting his chance now. Would you be more apt to play this pitcher that's getting a spot start? It was kind of like, we think of him as a scrub because he's got a 5.65 ERA or something like that. Normally in a pen, do you think is that a good move to throw into your lineup, or you kind of just avoid that guy and go with the normal starters that are pitching that day?
I think you could be like a GPP type of guy. I mean, I don't think I would throw him into like a cash, but
like you don't like a catcher that's all of a sudden he's getting his chance to play. I mean, I'm thinking mental wise.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that guy's getting a chance. I mean, but if he's like a reliever or like a rookie that got brought up, like nobody has any information on that guy. So like he might be facing the Yankees, but if they've never seen him live, like that's, a lot of rookie pitchers have success early because nobody knows anything about them. And then once they get into these, sometimes guys get into ruts of being very repetitive how they do, especially hitters wise, they learn very quickly. Big league, like we talked about from the Padres, Cronenworth last year. He was unbelievable.
We won a lot of money from it with him too for a while.
Yeah, nobody knew about him, and then all of a sudden, like, you see what happens this year. But, these rookies that are coming up, some of them are going to have success right away because there's no information on them, as much information. Out, right? Yeah, there's no book out there. I mean, listen, you can watch a pitcher's pitch 10 seconds after they've thrown it now. I mean, that's how crazy it is, but you haven't seen it live. JD Martinez is a big guy that, writes a book down. Like he writes charts every at bat he ever had. That's a guy that, he's doing his homework, but some of these guys, if they've never seen them, and all these guys throwing 100 miles an hour now, I mean, listen, they're super excited to be out there. I mean, they might have the best day of their lives or, there's a chance they might struggle, but, I mean, I would definitely be interested. I mean, you just got to look at how much they're going to throw, like the Tampa Bay is, big into doing these openers, but sometimes an opener can save you a ton of money, but, do you take them to chance on like, 2 innings, but if he punches out 5, that's not a bad day. And then you might be able to, get a better outfielder and stuff like that. So, I mean, those definitely come into play. I mean, I think early in the year, you gotta kind of base it off of, I think the veterans are going to be the veterans. Those are the guys that have been preparing all for this. I mean, looking at last year compared to this year, I mean, there's a little bit less innings thrown last year for some of these guys. So I think there's going to be a little bit better pitching overall because nobody logged as many innings. I mean, Verlander's been a 200-plus inning guy. Obviously, he was hurt last year, but those guys might have only thrown 120 innings. So now all of a sudden, that's 80 innings less on their arm. Those guys are going to be a little bit sharper earlier in the year, and they're going to be able to go longer,
Perfect example. Just happened, I think it was last week. Wasn't it? Who was it? Charlie Morton? Wasn't it Morton? Me and you were talking. Yeah. I was like, in spring training, I shouldn't because you go 4, he's only going 2. And you brought up that point. Like, what if top 4 guys?
Yeah.
I think he was the highest scoring guy at the slate last week. And I didn't play him. So right there, it's a perfect example of this. Sometimes overthinking. It's still Charlie Morton, who's he's a pro pitcher. He's been around pitching 2 innings of spring training. So
yeah, 2 innings and 5 punch-outs work for me.
Game a lot, obviously.
Yeah,
exactly. So you won that battle between me and you that day. All right, so let's get into a little bit of the season preview between the 3 of us. What are we gonna do first? Player moves or breakout? I don't know what we have on the schedule here. What we got, John?
I think we should do our our breakout players, I believe.
All right. Okay, so we'll go back. I'm just gonna name a couple of names. If you guys have any comments, I know a lot of our subs have been asking about player movement and guys making moves and who's been I just saw. Oh, here it is. Sorry. Okay, so the first move we have, we're gonna go back, starting recent from most recent. Last week, Jackie Bradley, who I didn't even realize this, is now a Brewer. He just signed. His free agency finally ended. So the thing is, where's he gonna play? When you got Yelich, Kane, and Avisail Garcia. So and now also this year, we were going to bring it up in the intersection. Is right now there's no DH unless they vote it in the next couple of weeks. The Player Association, there's no DH in the NL this year like there was last year. So Jackie Bradley is now a Brewer. Is he gonna? He's an elite defensive outfielder. Is he going to be a factor in DFS? Now he's going to be. Is he the fourth outfielder, or who else is? What are they going to do with Bradley?
I think it's a good question. If he can like return to form from a few years ago, that would be great.
They have Colton Wong now at second. I forgot about that and reading that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's got to move there.
Didn't he have like the longest hitting streak for a while there?
Bradley?
Yeah, a few
Yeah,
years
he did.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, if he can get back to hitting like he was doing then, I think definitely. But it's just a matter of, father
It's a
time.
1 year deal.
Father time does he still have that quick twitch as much as he did before or not? Remains to be seen, I guess. But I think it's a good spot for him though.
It's a 1 year deal. Looks like so. Yeah, an opt out after this year, so he can move on, have a good year. It's just weird. I don't know where they're going to put him, especially with they got 3 decent outfielders. Okay, so after that, Mets signed Taijuan Walker last month. So actually, the Mets got good. He got rid of Steven Matz. Steven Matz went to Toronto, who's actually had a good spring. He's done very well for me in spring training. So now all of a sudden the Mets got Carrasco, DeGrom, Walker, and I'm forgetting somebody. Marcus Stroman, right?
And Peterson.
So that's all of a sudden the Mets have a damn good freaking pitching staff. And David Peterson, who didn't he get rocked yesterday? Today? I think he pitched yesterday, right?
Yeah.
So that's a damn good staff. So now you got Walker so you got DeGrom's gonna be 1. Stroman is Stroman gonna be 2? And then they get Stroman 2 or Carrasco 2, right?
Yeah, he's delayed right now though because he had the vaccine or whatever, so he's like a little behind.
Okay, and that's a damn good pitching staff.
And then they have Lucchesi and Yamamoto
And Noah.
They traded them for Lindor.
Oh, okay.
No, that's right. No, they picked them up. No, I'm reading now.
Right.
Yeah, they picked. Yeah, it's right. They picked up Lucchesi. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, that's a solid staff.
So Mets got very solid.
This is probably the best,
very solid
on paper team they've had in 10 years.
Yeah, I think Carrasco was actually like silently put into that trade, and I think he might be the best part that's going to work out for him. I mean, Lindor's Lindor, but Carrasco's, Cookie's going to get his 5 innings, 6 innings every single start. He's never going to, veer away from that. So,
remember Walker at one time was a huge prospect.
Yeah, Taijuan. Yeah, when he was with the Mariners. Yeah, he's a 100-mile-an-hour thrower. I mean, he's just always been kind of like a little erratic, but I think he'll be all right.
Tommy John surgery, but nowadays, right? You have Tommy John surgery. You're pretty much back in 2 years. Back to, it seems like everybody's had Tommy John surgery now.
Yeah, it's a pretty common injury, and they've got it figured out so fast. Now those guys are coming back faster than they realize. So, yeah, makes them stronger too. They throw.
You don't see. Like my daughter blew her ACL in soccer. You don't see what she went through. I mean, just in high school soccer, and I could imagine what these guys go through that blew their ACLs and like have Tommy John surgery in the pros where they got to go through because it was just seemed like what this kid went through at 15 years old. So, which is traumatic, really. I mean, for an injury like that. So the Mets got a good pitching staff. There's no doubt about it. So add to your little list, we have Taijuan Walker. Another thing, Mariners signed James Paxton back he's no longer a Yankee. He's back with the Mariners. He didn't do bad last year for the Yankees. So he's probably what? I don't even know who's he's probably like he
just can't stay healthy though. That's a problem.
No, and that rotation's got Marco Gonzalez, Kikuchi, Justice Sheffield, and he's the number 4. So, or maybe he might jump. I mean, Sheffield's talented. That's a nice young staff too.
Yeah.
When you got James Paxton, maybe possibly your number 4. So I'm assuming Marco's still the number one. Marco's one of the guys that will do great for you one day, and next day he's a slash. But that's Marco Gonzalez for you. I've done very well with him, and so we got Paxton's moved from the Yankees. Last month, that's not a big deal. The A's, that's Trevor Rosenthal. Justin Turner resigned. Here's one. Red Sox traded Andrew Benintendi to the Royals.
Yeah, it's a big
people
deal.
may not know that one.
They're tanking, I'm pretty sure.
And the Red Sox got that Frenchie Cordero. I was just watching some video on YouTube or Twitter or something the other day. He was rocking him off the little green monster down here in Florida. So Cordero is a big time stud. And I was surprised about that because Benintendi, man, I can't even pronounce his name. He 2 years ago, remember?
Yeah.
With him and Bradley, now they're all gone. So he's had some injuries also. He'll be starting, I'm assuming.
Corey, I'm going to ask you a question here. What do you think about these teams tanking like this?
I mean, I think the Pirates did it a little bit, back in the day. If you looked at all those guys that they got, I mean, draft picks it's not like, MLB draft is a little bit different. I mean, if they can stay under the luxury tax, those guys are still making money. I mean, that's the biggest thing is that those teams are still going to make millions of dollars regardless, but they don't, it's hurting the fan base. But yeah, like Boston went from, the elite of the elite to now all of a sudden, Dustin Pedroia retires. Now you look at this, JD Martinez is still there. He's not going to want to be there much longer. I mean, he's going to demand a trade. So, if they're going to rebuild and try to go, I mean, the hardest thing though is the AL East is the AL East. I mean, they're going to struggle. I mean, it's going to be, we can heavily bet against the Red Sox, I think, this year. And they got a couple guys like JD Martinez is going to be a big time, a trade bait guy, Evaldi, if he can throw like he can. I mean, he's another guy. Those guys are going to be gone and then they're just going to rebuild. They're just going to try to grab as many prospects as they can and then, hopefully rebuild it. I mean, it's just some of these teams can't do it, but, they got the payroll, which the Red Sox definitely can cover it. They just have to start over.
Right.
You see, you hear a lot about JD would always go in the clubhouse between innings and watch his at bats on video. And then there was a big deal. Remember last year because he couldn't go in the clubhouse because of COVID, and they were saying that might have something to do with some of his struggles. But now I guess this year they all have iPads on in the dugout, so he can get back to watching all this stuff. He can't leave the dugout, but I guess they all have personal iPads that he can use now. So you might see a difference you heard that a lot about JD last year. About struggling, but he was kind of out of his element. That was part of his deal every day, going back in the clubhouse between innings. So, all right, moving on. Adam Duvall is now with the Marlins. We played him a lot in spring training already. He's done good. We know Duvall, boy, when he can get hot, he had that huge game against last year against the same Marlins team. He had 3 home runs. Maybe that's why they traded for him, but or signed him. So Duvall's now a Marlin. Marlins got a nice young team. They're gonna be one of my favorite teams this year.
Yeah, they look fun, man.
Yeah, I love Corey Dickerson. Dickerson is one of my favorite players in MLB. Sterling Marte is great, and now add Duvall in there. Then you got all these speedsters: Brinston, Sierra, Ramirez. So they got a good young team and a good pitching staff too.
Yeah, and they got Devers' cousin is also there too. Rafael Devers' cousin is with them.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's like 5 Devers in the minor leagues right now. Yeah, they're all top 100 prospects.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Devers is a stud.
Yeah, he's very good. Yeah, he played third base a couple times like 2 weeks ago. I think he made like a barehanded play, and they made a big deal about it. But, yeah, he's like, super skinny, but he's kind of like a twitchy guy, like a gap-to-gap guy. Third baseman, shortstop.
How long till he comes up?
I mean, with the Marlins.
He's not a big league yet, right?
No, he's on the.
He could be up this year.
Yeah, he's on the 40-man. He just got put on the 40-man. So I mean, he's probably a year out. Maybe a September call-up this year type thing.
Something to look for. Here's another one. Elvis Andrus got traded. Elvis Andrus to the A's for Chris Davis. Another one of my favorite DFS players, Chris Davis. So Chris Davis is now a Ranger. Elvis Andrus is now an A's because Marcus Semien got traded, right?
Yep. He signed with.
Oh my God! We'll get to him, I guess. But Andrus is now an A. Elvis Andrus has been around. He's a serviceable guy.
Mhm.
We've used him many days. He's done his job for me. He's been playing for probably 10 years. 12. Oh, he's
Oh
been
yeah,
playing 12 straight years. He's been open day shortstop. Wow.
yeah. He was my
I
winner
didn't
ball
realize
shortstop.
oh, really?
Oh yeah. Oh, that team was loaded. At Pablo Sandoval, Elvis Andrews, Andy Chavez, Richard Hidalgo, Miguel
Sandoval's
Montero,
still
Robinson
playing.
Chirinos, Yusmeri Petit. Oh yeah, the team was loaded. Yeah, I was like the lone. Mark Trumbo was on that team when he was with the
Oh
Angels
boy,
still.
yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's a
Oh, the team was
loaded.
loaded. Yeah, it was stupid. And then Elvis Andrus has a brother named Harold that is an switch hitting outfielder that's super
Oh, really?
talented. Just not as good as his brother was. Yeah, but he's really good. Yeah.
Wow. So I didn't realize he just lost his job to this Isaiah Kiner for Felf. I didn't know he lost his job to him. I guess at the end of last year. So Andrus, he's a bet. You can always use him for cash games. He's steady. Going back last month, we know Trevor Bauer signed with the Dodgers. When he pitches, you pitch him. You spend the money on him. He'll probably open day pitcher. We used him last week for DFS and spring training, and we crushed. So Dexter Fowler is now an Angel. Fowler, where does he now fit into that outfield? I mean, it looks like the Cardinals picked up most of his contract. See, the Cardinals are loaded in the outfield now. All these young guys like O'Neill, Harrison Bader, Dylan Carlson, they all did pretty good today, actually. Bunch others guys. I'm trying to think if Joe Adele is like the star of the Angels now, right? So it looks like they're not very comfortable yet with Adele handing the everyday job to him. Maybe that's why they got Fowler for kind of a stopgap until Adele is ready.
I mean, that would make sense. Yeah.
Because Adele's not. I mean, he really struggled last year, so I think he came up too early. And Fowler's been around. He's a decent bat to use. So
Yeah, he's a good
Colton
veteran.
Wong is now a Brewer. He'll be the starting second baseman, right? Because is Keston move into first base? I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Brewers
yeah.
Brewers gonna have a decent team then.
They'll be good. They'll be back to like, competing again. Last year they were just weird.
So this is one of your favorites, Mike, isn't it? Dan Vogelbach, isn't that one of your favorites?
Yeah, I do love that guy.
He's playing first. He's still with the Brewers.
If we can, the problem is he's like the second coming of Chris Davis, right? I mean, just put the shift on him, and if he's not hitting it out, I mean, he's not going to go anywhere. Which is another thing. What do you think about all the shifting and everything in baseball, Corey?
Well, they're trying to get rid of it. So the minor leagues right now, if you do a shift in the minor leagues, you have to have your cleats have to be on the dirt. You're not allowed to have that Dustin Pedroia out in like right center field. They're not allowing that anymore. So, I mean, the analytics of the game show you what a guy's going to do, but I mean, at the same time, like I really think there should be two guys on the left side of the field and two guys on the right side of the field. I mean, it's just that's how good these guys are, and that's how good those pitchers are, that they will physically leave the entire left side of the field empty and force a guy to hit a ball the other way. And then everybody jokes around like, well, he should just hit the ball the other way, but they're getting pitched to not to be able to do that. So, David Ortiz, I think a couple years ago, didn't he drop a bunt down like back in the day, like down at third base line?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Listen, they'll let David Ortiz bunt a ball instead of hit a home run all day long. So, I mean, I get why they do it, but at the same time, like, I think like the DH, like I'm happy the National League doesn't have the DH. Like I think there should be two different leagues. I mean, I'm really old school. I know Devin and I talk about that all the time. Like I'm not all about the new stuff, like just play the game the way it was played. They're talking about having umpires that are robots in the minor leagues right now. Like that's like,
well, they're going to bigger bases. They're going to bigger bases this year.
Yeah. They want the stolen base to become part of the game again, which I like that. I think that's cool. But yeah,
here's a good one for you. I'm sorry. How has it affected you that now the requirement is that all pitchers might have to step off the rubber to attempt to pick off?
Well, that's going to slow. I mean, nobody will get picked off anymore because that's like a huge part of it. I mean, and that's part of like controlling the running game. It's a totally different thing now. Well, if the bases are shorter, people are going to steal more, but that makes you have to be quicker to the plate or have a really good pickoff move. But if you have to step off the back of the mound, you can't have a quick pickoff move that way. Like it just won't happen. So, I get they're trying to do it to make the game a little bit more exciting. I get it. But, at the same time, I think that they went back to the old baseball too, right? So now there's going to be a couple less home runs, I think, too. Like the pitchers are happy about that.
Not good
Wow.
for young people, though.
No. That's what they're,
2 pickoff attempts per plate appearance. That's it.
yeah.
15-second pitch clock.
Mm-hmm.
And
This is the pace
requirement
of play. Yeah.
It's got, which I see some of that. And then all 4 infielders have to have their cleats within the out of bounds of the infield dirt when the pitch is delivered.
Yep.
So you can see a lot of that going up to eventually. They're all testing in AA and AAA now, but you might see all that within 2 or 3 years. So that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah. Talking to the shift is nuts. It's crazy.
It's going to affect the game. Okay, so we're still in February. Alex, we got Alex Saab's not a big deal. Twins signed Nelly Cruz. We knew that. Rays got Chris Archer back. The Rays are loving these reclamation projects. They could probably do something with Chris Archer. He had a big injury. He got rid of that terrible sinker. I know he's got a new windup. So I mean, he's a good number 4 or 5 for him. No one Arenado is now Ricardo. That's a big trade.
Huge trade. It makes them way better.
Cardinals are going to be, and they got Austin Gomber, who was just a prospect. Big deal. How do you see a guy like Arenado, who's been pitching in Colorado? Obviously, he's made a living off of Colorado in the air. Do you see him going to St. Louis and doing the same thing? Because I think he's a good baseball player and a good hitter.
Yeah, I think he's still going to be Nolan Arenado. I mean, he's such a good defender too. I mean, he's going to hit maybe 10 less home runs,
True.
But at the same time, like he's going to help the defense. He's an all-around elite baseball player. He's not just good at one thing. But yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, playing in Colorado is a whole other world. Those guys. Nobody wants to pitch there. If you look at it, they don't have any big name pitchers that want to stick around. Nope. Gray's the only guy that's been there for probably 5+ years, but he's still going to be fine. I mean, and he's built around. It's a good young team. I mean, I see the Rockies are going to start dropping off everybody too, because Story's a free agent next year. You're going to see these guys all getting shipped off somewhere at the All-Star break. So,
yeah,
totally agree. Didi Gregorius is now a Philly. All these shortstops, Galvis got traded, Simmons, they all moved. So now Didi's a Philly, because obviously they not gonna hand it over to Gene Segura. But whatever, Didi, we know what Didi did with the Yankees. I think Didi's a great shortstop, a great hitting shortstop. Obviously they weren't too impressed with Scott Kingery playing every day. Philly is going to be tough. Eddie Rosario is now an Indian who was a Twin. Rosario is a good hitter. 114 OPS plus over his last 4 years.
Yeah. He's that guy that you play, my God, the best situation, and then he just busts.
Yeah, you're right. How many times we played Twins last year, and I would play Rosario 3 straight days, and a day I don't play him. Who's the other outfielder for the Twins? Do the same thing to me. They hit a grand slam. Both of them, Rosario and who was it?
Or Buxton's another one.
Not Buxton, but it was just the other outfielder.
Buxton was hot for a minute last year.
They all do it. Kepler did it too. I can never get the Twins right. But he is now an Indian. I mean, he's going to be. Fran Malrez will be the designated hitter, and Rosario will be in the outfield. So decent. John Peterson, decent. Cub.
Yeah, that's the silliest one. You get rid of Schwarber for him. I mean, it's like the same player.
Yeah, trading a lefty for a lefty.
And they literally do the same thing. They're the same kind of hitter.
Big platoon splits, both those guys, right? Steven Matz went to the Jays, which you already said. I think Steven Matz may do well there. I think I've always liked Steven Matz. I always thought he had some talent, but what do I know? I've always liked him.
You just had to get out of New York. New York's tough
That's
to
not-
play in.
That's what I'm thinking, right? So I think you may see him have a decent year this year, especially guys that are playing season long. Some of this probably more geared towards season long fantasy baseball. I would definitely take a shot on a guy like Nat, especially if you can get him in later rounds. So now the Jays got Robbie Ray, Tanner Roark, Ross Stripling. I mean, Ryu is their number one. God, Robbie Ray, Tanner Roark. I mean, I've always liked Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray's the type of guy that every now and then will throw you a huge game.
He just redeveloped. He just changed his arm stroke too, so his arm got shorter. Yeah, Robbie Ray. So I think he's going to have another, like, his velo is going to go back up again. He kind of changed the way he throws. Like, the game of baseball evolved in like the last 5 years, and he's gotten back into this different arm stroke pattern. Lucas Giolito did it last year, and then you see what he did. He went from,
True
average pitcher to an elite.
Yeah, that's great. So, because we've been picking on Robbie Ray, especially last year, we were picking on him.
Yeah, you said we were, and then every now and then you throw like a one hitter in. Tommy LaStella is now a Giant. Another serviceable, like I said, that somebody says right here, extremely useful play in the right situation. And he's what, the A's, Angels, Cubs. He's been around, but always a good player. Angelton Simmons went to the Twins. All these shortstop are moving. So Polanco was just he's not a good defensive. He's never a good defensive shortstop. I mean, I guess that's why they got Simmons. He's had some good years. And Marcus Semien went to the Blue Jays. So it's gonna be hard to keep all these shortstops this year in mind. They're all moving around, but they're all. Freddie Galvis went to the Orioles, the Mrs. team. Galvis is another one.
Hooray!
So I see Jose Iglesias is gone from the Orioles. He's playing for somebody else now. I just played him the other day. So I don't know what the deal is. It's 2021 is shortstop year. They all moved. But Galvis, he'll every now and then he'll have 2 or 3 hits for you. Have a big game. Then he won't do shit for another week. But he'll be the starting shortstop. I'm assuming, right? There's nobody else that.
Yeah.
The
player to look out for with the Orioles is Santander.
Yeah, he should have been your. I guess he should
have been my breakout guy, but that kid
could have been your breakout player for this year. But
I
guess he's already broke out.
Yeah, well, I mean, still nobody knows about him really, because he's on the Orioles.
And he went through.
He's a good player.
He was on fire in September. Was it September?
Yeah, played him every single day.
Oh my god! Yeah,
every day for like a month.
It was like 3 weeks straight.
Yeah.
There's only a couple other ones here. Jamison Talon, Yankees. Enrique Hernandez, Red Sox. Dirksen Profar, Padres. He's now Project X, right? A and Ranger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now pretty much everything else is the Blue Jays. Probably one of the biggest ones, Springer and Tyler Chatwood. So what's the deal with Blue Jays are gonna be solid?
This should be. I mean, they got Bo Bichette, they got Guerrero. I mean, it should be good. I mean, they picked up Springer. I mean, yeah, Chatwood, AJ Cole. They got Robbie Ray last year, so they've actually made some really good deals. Jose Quintana is an Angel now. Here's another one. John Lester is a National. He's been playing forever. He's about as old as I am. I fucking hate that guy too. Fucking
Joe Musgrove went to the Padres in that deal, that 3-way with the Mets.
Yeah.
The Corey Kluber Yankees. You're right. There was a lot more moves than I thought as we're going through this.
Yeah, there's a ton.
Kluber is the Yankees. I'm trying to go quicker now. Liam Hendricks, White Sox. Another serviceable. Get him out of Wrigley, I guess. I don't know. He's all right. I mean, he's ERA. He's at a 179 ERA. He doesn't have. I have a thing of him at an ERA of 179 since. That's got to be wrong. In 2019. I don't know. But Liam Hendricks is decent. Schwarber Nationals. Then the big Indians trade Lindor and Carrasco to the Mets.
Well, Lindor's batting like 100, by the way.
He'll be all right, I guess.
Yeah.
I like that Jimenez, though, that they got rid of for Lindor. We used him a lot last year, Jimenez and Rosario.
Yep.
Indians are dumping. And Robbie Grossman's speedy guy, now the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
He's another platoon guy. Play him a lot when, he's a switch hitter, but he's actually a better outfield than people think he is. But he's still he's more in platoon situations. Now we're going with Darvish. That's right. Darvish got traded to the Padres. Most people know that one.
The Padres are
Blake Snell.
stacked.
Blake Snell to the Padres.
They are absolutely stacked.
They're just in the wrong division.
Right.
Josh Bell for the Pirates and Nationals. He'll probably be the starting first baseman, right?
Love Josh Bell.
I like him too. He's very.
That's a great spot for him too.
His 2019 was much better than 2020. He had 37 homers.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good program for him to be in, though. The Pirates have been so bad, and it's just been a dumpster fire. This way, he'll have good players around him. Yep,
he could have it could be a big move, a big season. And then we go to Hunter Renfroe, Red Sox. I love Hunter Renfroe. I think he's good. The pitcher, he does look like Mike Trout. James McCann, catcher for the Mets. James McCann definitely is a good platoon. Got a 4-year contract though. I don't know. I don't understand that one, but definitely.
Yeah.
David Dahl, ex-Rocky, is with the Rangers now. Nate Lowe, who's one of my breakout guys, is a Ranger now. I like that kid.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Chris Flexen came from the Korea, now back to the Mariners.
Yep, KBO.
Wow.
Shout out KBO.
This is crazy. Adam Eaton is now a White Sox from the Nationals.
And Sungbung Na, also a White Sox.
Yeah. Is that who he signed with?
Yeah. And
Carlos Santana, Royals. Do you see his guy like Sungbum Na is actually making a? We watched him. Both of us, all of us, watched him a lot last year. We watched a lot of his games last year with He played for. Oh my gosh, drew a blank on the team. He played for in Korea. Whatever, but he's good. The Dinos, and NC Dinos. So you see him making a mark in the MLB. He's a hitter, man.
Yeah, he's a pure hitter. I mean, the biggest thing is that the velocity difference between the two leagues is going to be huge. So I mean, you're talking. I think the average fastball in KBO was like mid 80s. You're talking about starters throwing 100. In the big leagues. Yep. So,
and a guy like Dan Straley's a stud too, right? And Straley's a stud over there. So
yeah. I mean, I think he's going to be fine. I mean, he's getting inserted into a lineup that he's going to be surrounded by really good baseball players. So, I think he's going to maybe take him a little bit of time, but yeah, I think he'll be all right.
He's got his comes from a family. His father was a big time player too. I remember right. So he'd be interested. I'll be cheering for him though. I think I'd like to see him do well because we watched him. I probably watched him more than any baseball player last year than any MLB player probably.
I know, seriously.
Every morning at 5:30 we were watching Korea on ESPN. So
all right. Well, how about I think I'm pretty for the most part. That's really it.
That's it. We just ended it. Stroman to the Mets.
Yeah,
that's it.
Really it. So let's go through all of our breakout players. So mine, I guess we'll start with mine so that I can let you guys talk about your guys. But mine's Eloy Jimenez. I mean, in the I guess the bubble, right? They're the MLB bubble, I guess you want to call it. He just got way better than he was. His strikeouts went down. I mean, he had almost half as many home runs as he did in a full season the year before. He had 14 compared to 31. I mean, he's really making better contact. His average went up from 267 to 296. That's a seemingly a huge gap. I mean, I know it's a lot less games, but even if that, kind of levels out to like 280 to 85, right? That's still a dramatic increase. And the talent that's on the White Sox team now, I mean, they've been sneakily just adding players, getting good young prospects like Luis Robert. So
Very good.
I just think that Eloy is just going to, be the anchor for that team, and just they're going to be contending come October.
He was my breakout player last year. When we talked about him, I think he's gonna be him and Robert are the two top young players in the game. I like both of them. This could be his definite breakout season. No, good call. Totally agree with it. Who you got, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, so this guy's definitely a rookie. I mean, Alex Killaroff from the Twins, super talented. I mean, he's a kid from Pennsylvania that he was actually a homeschooled kid, so he never really had a whole lot of high school career at bats and stuff, but he kind of made a name for himself quickly in the minor leagues a little bit. He's kind of bounced up. He's struggling this year a little bit, but, I think he's a young kid, left-handed hitter. He's going to hit with some power in that lineup. He's going to fit in, I mean, he's going to have some, some definite, he's got a Nelson Cruz that can kind of help him along the way. Good defender. I mean, obviously, I think he's just going to have to be able to hit to stay up there, but I think he's got a chance to, to do pretty good in that division too. That conference is it's an okay division. There's nobody to write home about, especially with the Twins right now, and the Astros are okay, so it's kind of I think that whole division is wide open.
Yep, and Kirillov's going to be. I think he's going to be a star. So,
yep,
good call. My call is Nate Lowe, and it's kind of a sketchy call. I've been following Lowe for a while. I just think he's really talented. He never got a chance really in Tampa, even though it's just weird. He thought he had a future in Tampa, but he went to Texas, and mainly because Ronald Guzman, Texas has been trying to give him so many chances, and who's got a great glove. And I mean, he's a big dude. He's like 6'5". Guzman is got a lot of pop, but he hasn't played together. So they signed Lowe. He's only played like 70 games in the year in his career. All of a sudden now Guzman goes to Dominican Republic this year, and he's a career 230 hitter, bangs out 360 with 5 homers. He's the MVP of the Winter League. So now all of a sudden Lowe's come here with the job handed to him. Now he's fighting for a job with Guzman. But it looks like Guzman's been playing the outfield. They've been training him in the outfield. Hopefully to give Lowe the starting first base job, as Lowe's the type of guy that needs to play every day, and they can't send him down. So Lowe's ultra talented, hit the ball a mile. Like last year only had like 224 to 4 homers, but he's got a lot of talent. So I could see Nate Lowe having a huge year. Totally agree with your 2 calls. I think out of all of them, I think Jimenez is probably the breakout player out of all the guys. I like Jimenez as best, but look at Nate Lowe. Nate Lowe is good, and Corey's called Kirilloff. Great call.
Yeah, I think they're all really good. Just quickly before we wrap up, just one pitcher I want to talk about is Casey Bynes with the Tigers.
Hmm.
He was number 1 pick in 2018, but I think he should be up there full time now officially. If not, he will be at some point. But his splitter is just nasty. If you guys can remember, I mean, both of you know this, but I'm not sure everybody else does. With Max coming up through the Tigers and everything, they're a lot of their folks over there have been comparing Max's change up to this splitter. So, it would be nice to see some of these crap teams actually have some good prospects and put some good games together so they can, focus on more than just, the handful of teams that are all stacked up.
Totally agree. I got a picture quick, and Danny, who's watching this right now, is going to like this. Griffin Canning for the Angels. I think Canning is going to be and if you see like the Mike Trout during the whole Mike Trout era, the whole Angels problem has been pitching. But if you really look at Cannon, he was all right last year. He had 11 starts, 2-3, 3.99 ERA. But as the year progressed, over his last 5 starts, he was 2-0 with a 3.14 ERA, 33 strikeouts in 28 innings, and that's because he was healthy. So he was shut down in 2018. He was shut down 2019. He would have missed the start of last year too if it started on time. So I mean, this kid's a first-round talent out of UCLA. If he doesn't have injury concerns, I think and that's a push him to the second round when he got drafted. So I think if Canning stays healthy, Canning's big time to me. I think he could end up being an elite starter because he's got a whiff rate right up there with Snell and Glasnow and Bieber and these guys. So, and he also has got a new curveball for his top secondary pitch. So I like Griffin Canning. Do you have any pitcher you like, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, well, Casey Mize was definitely going to be one of my guys. I mean, he's definitely going to be up there year round. I mean, he did it well enough last year. I think they're going to give it to him.
Yeah.
I like Kyle Wright from the Braves as another guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that staff, it's a pretty good. They got pretty. They're going to be good as well. I mean, Charlie Morton is going to be they're like number 4 just because of his age, but I think Kyle Wright's proved himself a little bit enough last year. I think he's going to have a really good year.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Zach Eflin, Eflin's another one.
Yep.
And Corbin Burns for the Brewers.
Yeah,
all the breakout pitchers, I think.
All right, guys. All right. That's pretty much it. If you guys haven't been with us, over the years, we'll have, our podcasts, our top plays, our GPP article, usually written by me. Top plays usually written by Pete. And, we still have our Discord. Jump in there. We'll talk plays, talk stacks, lots of player movement. So we just want to make sure that everybody gets, off the ground running here in the beginning of the season. So we'll be here and available to help you guys with all of your lineups and lineup questions, MLB talk, and so on and so forth. I'd like to thank Corey for coming on. It was a pleasure having you here. You did a good job first time on camera.
You did a good job.
Hopefully it won't be the last, but it should be a good MLB season. Hopefully we get the full season here and no hiccups, no bumps in the road. But with that, do you guys have anything else before we sign off?
No, I want to also thank John Moffa, who's doing an awesome job producing. I always forget to thank him after the college basketball shows, but John does an awesome job here for us. And thank you, Corey. It was an honor talking to you. I've been trying to get you on forever to talk. Like Mike said, it's probably not going to be the last time. And we're going to have some more previews as we get closer to the season. Live shows. We're kicking ass in spring training right now. So if you guys want to join now, make the money before everybody else catches up to us. And that's pretty much it. Yeah.
This is the place to be, guys. I mean, Pete, definitely. I mean, Miz, these guys know what they're doing. I mean, they've helped me out a ton over the years. I mean, and even though I'm not on there, like I'm willing to help out guys with my thoughts and stuff like that. Cause we literally talk, I think daily, Pete and myself for sure, definitely if KBO comes back another 2, that's another whole conversation. We could discuss that another day.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be having a preview for Korean baseball if that actually happens. So
hopefully they give us some good contest selection for that. And we might start doing
right.
Yeah. But, all right, guys, with that, come check us out. yourfielderschoice.com. at YFC Sports on Twitter, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.